But if it was a different anime, and if it was just, like, from a guy's point of view, or from if it's, not a popular girl's point of view, they would be bullied for smelling of curry. Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who, for charity, is going to eat his body weight in peeps. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
Doing pretty good. So you've heard about the meat sweats. Well, the peep sweats are much worse, and you have to do a lot more practice and dry runs, as it were, to eat enough peeps to fulfill the charity that I'm going to be trying to earn money for. This charity is to save the aardvarks, the aardvarks of Chattanooga, a little town called Chattanooga in Florida. So yeah, they are very famous for their aardvarks, which are endangered. So I'm gonna eat my body weight in peeps on Easter Sunday. Um, so I probably will have to go to the hospital. We are having to hide from the authorities on this, so I can't reveal exactly where it's going to be, but there's a good chance that I probably won't survive. So um, you'll have to carry on without me on this podcast,
Don't
maybe.
worry. I'll set up a body pillow, of your face on a head of a peep, and that'll be your stand-in, as I talk to, the ethereal nothing that it used to be you. But
Probably
yeah, um,
the ratings will probably go up, so that's a good thing.
well, I mean, it's what's also equally smart is you being in Florida for that because, the sugar high from that amount of peep level or is very much similar to Florida Man meth. So you should blend right in. No one will be none the wiser. So the jitters were just like, yeah, it's all right.
There is a
So
point at which the arsenic and the peeps does, and it's just trace amounts of arsenic, but it does rise to a level where it can be very dangerous. I'm just joking. I don't want peeps to sue us. I'm sure there's no arsenic in peeps. So I just want to retract that statement before their lawyers. Who makes peeps? Nestle.
no idea. Uh,
Okay.
last time I had a peep. Actually, it wasn't that long ago because it was a Dr. Pepper peep, like a couple years back or something like that. A coworker was like, "Check this out," and I'm like, "That's disgusting. Give me one of those." You know,
I would definitely like to try the Dr. Pepper peep. Yeah, that's disgusting. Hand it over. This is definitely the right response there. That's funny.
yeah, it was. I forget a friend it's like that's a common joke. Like, why is it when we have something that tastes terrible, we always want to share it? You're like, dude, this tastes awful. Take a swig of this, or like why? No, you just said it tasted awful. Yeah, but you got to try it. You know. So, anyways, yeah, as you can tell, we're going to be recording this one just a little bit earlier because we're going to be busy doing stuff during the Easter, spring break, as it were. So we're going to be catching up on just a few of the anime that kind of stood out to us a little bit this time around. This isn't all of them. This is just ones that we were able to maintain. Some of these aren't finished yet, or they're finishing up either like the around the time of this recording. So we've caught up with most of the episodes, but not all of them. Just you know, but nonetheless, we feel like we should talk about them. And yeah, I guess I'll just kick us off right out the gate. So I talked about before. It was a classic manga that I really enjoyed, and that was Hana Kimi. Its first time getting an anime adaptation. I mentioned how they made multiple live action TV shows, which adapted really well and being like really silly and stupid, but at the same time, just seemed to really fit the characters. And when it comes to this, Hanakimi is well, for those who don't know, Hana Kimi is a story about a Japanese girl who lives in America, and she decides to, or at least Japanese descendant, like her grandma is Japanese. We don't actually know her parents, um, but yeah, she goes from America to Japan to follow a high jumper that she is, not in love with, but she's like captivated by. She found the way that that person jumped was just awe inspiring, to the point where she decides to travel across the ocean to and enroll into their very school. The plot twist is that's an all boys school. And so she then has to go undercover, and thanks to plot armor and the gods, she happens to be that person's roommate. Yeah, and so that's the gist of the story. And it's a it's a rom com. Has a Was made back in the early, or it finished up in the early 2000s. 23 volumes, I think, of the manga,
Yeah.
and so it had been around for a while. Uh, Most definitely of an era. This anime adaptation does a surprisingly good job of, like, not aging it. So at one point, uh, of course, everyone sees the main character as a very pretty guy, because obviously going to an all boys school, and one person that she happens to meet, a complete stranger, doesn't realize she's going to an all boys school, but thinks, "Oh, okay, obviously you're a girl." And she straight up says, "I'm a guy." And in the Japanese, it'd be more like, you know, like probably saying it with more masculine tone, or like, like ore
Yeah.
instead of watashi. Um, so in the English, at least, it's funny because they were like, "It's fine." It's like if you wanna if you wanna label yourself as a guy, that I'm like, "I'm okay with that." Um, and I'm like, "Yeah, that somehow stayed really topical." Like that. And they do an okay job with, like, switching phones, so not having flip phones from, like, way back when. They like, "Alright, we're just gonna update some modern, amenities here and there." Uh, they may not give enough side characters, some depth that they originally got in the manga. One of my favorite characters is, the, like, secondary friend, the secondary male lead, um, Nakatsu. He he comes in as the kind of hot-headed Jack character, and he ends up causing some trouble for our main heroine. But then slowly starts to have developed feelings, and then the internal turmoil of this person, and you're talking, once again, a character created like late 90s, early 2000s, but having to have that inner dilemma of like, I'm not attracted to a guy, that's silly, no. And then the denial and the eventual uh development of emotions, and then the turnaround to acceptance. You kind of really feel for him, because he obviously, they're the only ones in the dark, you as the reader, and the actual male lead, Sano, like, finds out right away, like,
Yeah.
because uh, the Mizuki passes out, and he happens to pick up his roommate and realizes, wait, you're a girl. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't, and then the entire time of being like, okay, I gotta pretend like I don't know that you're a girl,
Yeah,
while
so she
the
doesn't know that he does know from pretty early on. So
Yep.
and then they kind of become sort of fast friends or whatever. And she's falling in love with him, or kind of has already, really already likes him or whatever, even if she won't admit it to herself. Um, but and but and so and he's like being extra like friendly with her or whatever. So you can tell that he is uh that he understands that she's a girl and that he likes her in that way, but he has to prevent her from kind of figuring it out, and she's still trying to prevent him from figuring it out even though he's already figured it out. So yeah, it's there's a plenty of room for like hijinks and like weirdness and craziness. And then like the brother comes to visit and there's like a whole problem there. But yeah, it's a good sweet show. harkens back to a simpler time in some ways, but still holds up even now. So yeah, it's pretty good overall. There's probably some places that I would like to see a bit more fleshing out of characters, like you mentioned, but it does what it needs to, like well enough to be good fun.
Yeah, so I feel like they kinda missed the boat on this anime. I feel like it would have thrived better. Like, it's very like, I do appreciate the quality of this anime. Uh, I feel like it's fun to have it now, and I'm glad they have it in general. But at the same time, this would have been more appropriate to be done, the mid to late aughts
Yeah,
sometime, because when you had things like, um, the Ouran High School Host Club, it's very much in that vein of shoujo manga, or Maid Sama, which was, I think, 2010 the anime got for the or something like that, and so, girl works at maid, as a maid cafe, waitress, and the pretty boy finds her secret, then uses that as leverage to, get closer to her. Those 2 are very much staples in this kind of, like, genre, and so to have Hana Kimi be, like, missing from that for so long, was kinda weird, and
it's
then, so I
it's
feel like it would have been better in that era, you know?
it's also weird that it got adapted into live action like three times, right? Like,
Yeah, so it was Japanese, then Korean, and then Japanese again.
okay, so I guess
And
it's a
so
little bit that's like a little bit less weird, but it's still like, yo, adapted it into live action twice. It just kind of makes me wonder if it was floating around, the Japanese version of Hollywood, and there's like competing studios. It's like, well, one's an anime studio, one's a live action studio, and it's just like both times, at least for Japan and once for Korea, the live action was just like, look, we can do this. It's already kind of worked. It's easier for us to do this kind of thing than for us to do some kind of weird sci-fi fantasy. So I just wonder if there was just more competition from the live action side, which is what prevented it from actually getting turned into an anime, sooner. Because yeah, it seems like it would fit in with a lot of other anime at the time, but maybe just wasn't moving the needle in the same way. I don't know.
yeah, it's just funny because so the Korean live action adaptation actually came out when I was in Korea, and I ended up having to see it on TV with my wife just randomly. We just have like, we very rarely had watched just random TV, and it was one of those weird times that we did, and we didn't know what we're watching. Just kids start walking through school, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like rose petals blasting onto the scene with character with his little entourage behind him, and we're like, "What the hell?" Like, this is most definitely like adapting some sort of anime, and so I'm like, and then we realize quickly like, "Wait, is this Hana Kimi?" Like, the guy with the rose petals, he's like the drama, like dorm lead, and we're like, "No way, this is nuts." And it was kind of fun. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't, it's like, but we never watched dedicated like to watch the whole series because we didn't actually know when we came in, what episode we knew nothing of it. We're just like, okay. Then when we went to Japan, we had some friends who had a copy of the original Hanakimi run, live action run, and we proceeded to make a very dangerous drinking game to that. Um, Anytime the main theme song, like there's like a vocal catchy tune that played as a normal like mantra. We're like, okay, the theme song kicked in. All right, let's take a shot.
Oh,
Um,
geez. Okay.
anytime anytime there is a pretty much anytime there's a longing stare that's just a little too long, we're like, yep, okay, well, let's take a shot. you know Needless to say, we like, I think those episodes were like an hour long, and we never made it past episode 2 for the first 2 or 3 times we played this game. And then eventually we're like, okay, let's just start from episode 3. uh but no, it's a really good series. The secondary run of the Hanakimi, from what I was told by that same group of friends, they were like, "Yeah, so the second season was quite hated, and it was so ill received that the network that had the original one then decided to start airing they reran those old, episodes during, like, either a competitive time slot or just in general, like but it made it sound like they're like, "No, no, we're re-airing during your time slot, but we're gonna show our old one and steal your fans." Which, if that was true, that's a really petty and really awesome maneuver. I kind of support that, you know?
Just to
But
really
yeah,
highlight how
it's
bad the new season was, yeah.
yeah, so it's, yeah, that remake or whatever, but if you go with the live action, I highly recommend the original Japanese run. Uh, it's quite well done, and there's something about certain anime being adapted to Japanese live action that just works really well, especially when it's a comedy or something or it has that slapstick, mentality. I just recently discovered randomly through, um my cell phone gift capability, you know, like you type in a random word search and it shows you random gifts, and it threw me a Kyokare Orewa, which is a manga about 2 kids, 2 punk kids going trying to make their high school debut. One moves in from out of town and the other one comes like he's trying to reinvent himself, and so the kid who reinvents himself gives himself some bleach I think it or he might be the one from out of town, but he gives himself bleach blonde hair, and the other one gives himself a giant, like, it's so the bleach blonde hair is also permy and almost not quite a pompadour. Um, the other kid decides to give himself, like, something like a 3-foot tall, flat top. Not flat top, but like a spiky top, and so it's just about a bunch of punk kids doing stupid stuff, getting into fights, and it's hilarious. So Kyokare Orewa. Well, I just found out that there was a live action version of this because out of nowhere, random gifts started popping up on my phone, and then I started using them, and sure enough, like certain people are like, "Wait a minute, is that a live action version?" I'm like, "Yeah, there is," and like this is now on our most definitely we need to watch list. Um, but yeah, sometimes, like I said, you get some really good gems that way, and, Hana Kimi, live action's solid. This anime is also equally solid. Uh, does it feel a little dated? Yes, and is it unfortunately, it's in a rough spot for this year because there are a few other rom-coms that are just kind of leagues above,
Kinda better,
uh,
yeah.
becau yeah, and so but don't get me wrong, I still love Hanakimi, but at the same time, it's just that it was a rough you know, like any other season, maybe it would've been better suited, so it just got a rough break there, but I still recommend watching it, and that's why I wanted to voice that out this time around.
Yeah.
Alright. The next one we're gonna talk about is, Sentenced to be a Hero. You and I had a lot of good things to say about episode 1. It came out swinging, super strong. With almost a full-length feature, felt like it was, like an hour plus long,
Yeah.
opener episode, and high quality. The animation still stays strong throughout throughout the series. Um, a little disappointed on this one because I feel like they could have developed their characters just a little bit more. They're a little bit one note, and some of the side characters have a little bit more of an interesting, backstory that I wish I knew more about, but all you do is you get some verbal dialogue, and then they just kinda move on. So it's like, "Oh, that's kind of a bummer." But if you want just simple, beautiful action with, like, over the top, uh, this is still really cool. Like I said, I keep on just being surprised on how good the quality of the animation is for the fact that I've seen other good stories just get just trash can garbage animation. So the team did a really good job on this, making it look good, having vibrant colors, and I just wish the characters were just a little more fleshed out, especially the main lead. Uh, he's just stuck in his grumpy old man mode, and you know, with a side of slight trauma baggage, and then he
Oh,
just
yeah.
can't get over.
His dark
And I'm
backstory or
like,
whatever.
yeah, it's just I'm like, but some of the other characters, one of them they call King, you know, and his weird dementia that he goes through, he's kind of fun because of it. They have this one other person who's just like a walking corpse, like a zombie. And then I think they made a one-liner saying, "I heard he," like the king was talking about. I was like, "I heard he was summoned from another world." So I'm like, they made an isekai joke reference. I'm like, yeah, you know what, that would make sense. But that guy literally doesn't speak, and so you're never going to see anything about his backstory. And they kind of develop a little bit of their company commander having been a con man and accidentally discovering that there's a big conspiracy. I'm like, that's fine, but I wish you would have more. And I'm sorry, I should have stated this one out because we also talked about Sense to Be Hero before. Sense to Be Hero, long and the short of it is fantasy world with magic and monsters. These monsters are demon lords, but think like fungus, the Last of Us kind of fungus meets Princess Mononoke blob monsters. So the woodland creatures get mutated into these raging feral fungus beasts. And the different demon lords are kind of different creatures. Like one of them looks like a fly or a bee or something like a wasp or something like that. And like I said, unique character, unique monster design, and it's not just grotesque, simple colors, but like it's more of like a um, Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
I'm like Technicolor shroom kind of fungus that are coming at you. So
Yeah, so this one, yeah, I liked it initially. I do think it kind of turned it pretty quickly just turned into kind of a regular shonen type of action anime. So I was a little bit like, okay, but yeah, I tend to agree with you on the characters. I think some of the side characters are actually pretty good, and they're just kind of leaving a lot of meat on the bone for them. The main character is I think Xylo is his name. Is he's not bad or anything like that. It's just yeah, there could be more. I think the goddess character is rather annoying most of the time. Maybe she'll get better, but a lot of the like, okay, now you can praise me stuff. I was just kind of like, really, because in a lot of ways it's kind of an escort mission. A lot of the episodes are basically like it, kind of like we gotta protect the goddess or whatever, and then a lot of things like that. I was kind of thinking about that and thinking back to a lot of other shows that I've seen that are escort missions, and in a lot of those that are good, the thing that the person that you're escorting or protecting tends to be on the quieter side, so as to not be annoying or whatever. So I think that's sort of something that they're trying to make her more of a character, and it's just there's just not really there's not really a lot there. So maybe they can adjust it or whatever to make it better. But the show does have some pretty significant levels of action. There's a lot of even like other action anime that have to take long breaks from it because it's expensive to animate that. This show does tend to have quite a bit. And I think that they are doing a good job with the trade offs in the animation. You can tell that they are having to scrimp and save a little bit in certain places. There are places where there's not a lot of action going on, and even where there is a lot of action, but where there's not a lot of action going on, where there's not very much shading, and it's pretty much like okay, you've got a decent background, and then you've got the character, and you've got flat color on the character, and there's like a gesture of shading, but it doesn't actually fit with the way the light would actually be hitting them, even in a simplified way. Um, and it's just it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a choice. It's like okay, we have a lot of action to get through. The point of the show is to have a lot of movement and a lot of killing and blood and stuff like that flying everywhere. We can't do everything, so we're going to prioritize that, and they do a really good job of that while we take our priorities off of the nitty gritty detail of people talking and making that look ultra perfect. So I think it's a bit striking of an anime when you first see it. You're like, dang, this is they're doing a lot here, but after you kind of realize what they are kind of having to give up, it's like okay, it's a little bit come back down to earth just a little bit, but overall, that is the shining part of it is especially that first episode. But even later episodes. They do a really good job of just kind of blowing your socks off with people throwing knives and swords flying everywhere and blood flying everywhere, and that's what makes it pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, so with this, it's a you know, and then we did mention that, like so essentially like the title entails if those who are super criminals, you know, in a world where people know about their existence, they're like, I'm gonna be a mass murderer. Like, what are you gonna do? Kill me? And then they're like, no, you're gonna be a hero. Oh no, oh God, no, please no. I'm like, wait, you didn't think about that? Uh it's kind of stupid on that front, but
Yeah,
I find it's not really escorting her so much. She's more than capable. It's just that Xylo is trying to be overly protective because if the goddess uses up too much energy, they burn out and then they can become corrupted. Um, and that's his sin was he killed his previous goddess. Um, but of course, the church there was a cover up was like, hey, we can't say that our ultimate weapons are flawed, and if it literally you know spits in the face of the foundation of our church, and so it's just like, all right, we understand, but it is very much a hey, go here, uh, save these people, protect this point, and the next episode is something similar. Um,
yeah,
the I actually really like the goddess's, character design as far as,
yeah.
like, her hair being a sparkler and, like, implementing her emotions and just how her hair has that little sparkler effect on it. I'm like, "That's fun." The other, female commander, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's pretty well done as a character, but at the same time, uh her hat is stupid. She has a stupid hat that, like,
Is it
when
like
she goes into battle.
is it like a little Bo Peep hat? Is that the one that you're thinking of, or is that
No,
the?
it reminds you of it's like the old Japanese naval hat.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like
Oh
this
yeah, okay.
hard this hard, patent leather brim, and it's like this giant, like, forehead shield. It looks like it should be able to take a bullet for you.
Oh yeah, okay. I
Um
saw a picture of it again. Okay, yeah, yeah. That
Oh,
is,
yeah, and, like,
it's
she
so silly.
sometimes doesn't have it, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." The next scene, she has it back in battle. I'm like, "Why do you wear that hat?"
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's silly. But nonetheless,
I do agree with
it's
you
yeah,
on the goddess's character design is pretty good, and the character designs for pretty much everybody in here are at least all right. And they have like a good silhouette and stuff like that. Nothing's gonna really kind of blow you away. It's like, oh, this is just amazing character design, but the main characters do have it good, and I appreciate that too.
yeah, and it's just, the only other thing is, like, her main power is for anyone who's watched the Fate series, it's the Gilgamesh summoning 1,000 blades type of deal, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "Alright, well, I've obviously know what like, I've obviously seen something that does this exact same thing. The only thing is with her powers combined, with the main character, he can make knives explode. So by her summoning knives, then he can or swords, and he can throw the swords and then making them explode. She just gives him ammo. And she's just a giant ammo dump for him. So it's just like, okay. Um I feel like, but it works. And once again, yes, the action, Studio Kai has really like knocked it out of the park on this. Kind of funny thinking I'm pretty sure it's the same Studio Kai that did Super Cub like years ago. A little cute anime about girls learning to ride mopeds or essentially, Honda Super Cubs. And it's just like, okay, they've come a long way. But yeah, so anyways, Sense to Be Hero, it's good action. If you're looking for in-depth, real rich story, this isn't it, but it's a very good feast for the eyes if you're looking for action. And sometimes that's what you want. I mean, it's always good to have something that proves itself. And then hopefully if they do a season 2, characters will develop in a really good way.
Yeah,
All right. Let's see. All right. The third one we wanna go a little more in depth on is, a Journal with Witch.
yeah.
Um, this this one was a unique one because,
So,
um,
uh,
I didn't. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so let me kind of talk a bit about this one. So I think you and I have both watched. I just finished episode 4 of it, and is that about how far you made it, or did you make it further?
Yeah, I'm a little bit past that, but not by much.
Okay.
So, like, I'm at the end of I think I'm on 6 now.
So yeah, so I think this would probably the way it's going. This one will probably be maybe a little bit higher on my list. If I'd watched more of it up to now, but there's no dub, so it does make it harder to watch. You kind of have to sit down and actually read it, as it's happening. So it doesn't fit in with my life as much. But basically, what this show is about is a girl that's about to graduate middle school. Well, her parents pass away in a car accident, and she has to go and live with her aunt, who is a novelist. We come to find out in like episode like 2 or 3 or something like that she's actually like a fantasy novelist. And it's a little bit of like it's a little bit like they're kind of getting used to each other. They also don't really know what to do with this situation with the girl's parents, because she's basically she's extremely grieved. You also find out like that the aunt and the girl's mom, who were sisters, obviously they did not get along, in a lot of ways. And so yeah, so so that's kind of the basic premise of what it's about. It is like I do like this anime, if for no other reason than it is very like grown up. It's the anime you don't really get to see very often. At least I feel like everything is some sort of like demon lord, or like pure romance, or like hyper rom-com or something like that. And this anime, there's no magic in it. There's nothing like super crazy or salacious. It's just sort of a simple sort of human story. And I think that like that there's not too many characters, at least not yet, but all the ones that are there are pretty well fleshed out, and they feel like real people. And it's what I'm gonna keep watching. It's yeah. So I'm just kind of proud of it for being that, and even if it kind of doesn't really go anywhere, or there's not a season 2, or I don't even feel like watching season 2, I'm definitely glad that like it exists, because there's not really a whole lot of anime that kind of takes chances like Journal with Witch.
Yeah, so this one, exactly, and you nailed the synopsis. The big thing for me was, it is more mature, like you said, but also the characters are very human.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the concept is because, uh, Makiko, the older sister, who's the author, she kind of the concept of, like, she's not really grieving over the loss of the sudden death of her sister and, like, her brother-in-law, but she's there to identify the body, and then she finds that's when she discovered like, she, gets bumps into the main, the main girl who's I think she's, like, 15 at the time, something like that, and so Asa, and it's very she's kind of a secluded author. She's just generally a little more awkward, and you can tell, especially by the way they show the flashbacks and her first interaction when she's going out of her way to invite Asa to live with her. Uh, this is a woman, a younger woman, like in her 20s, who doesn't have, like a like does she's not well connected with her family. She's not really well emotionally grounded. She's just merely pretty much just like, I live on my own and I'm happy to be by myself. Um, and now next thing you know, she's fostering her niece, and her niece is also like she's not super grief stricken. It's just more like still in the shock originally, and like it's kind of just a really like she's just as much confused on her parents' death as she is who the person trying to figure out the person that she lives with. Um, I the one of the side characters, um, Makiko's friend, Nana, like her personality is very different,
Mhm.
and she's very warm, outgoing, and she just straight up calls it as it is. She's like, "You're like a parent now," like out of nowhere, and it's just like. Her bubbly personality is pretty fun. Uh, but yeah, it's pretty much just a story about two people who are who are alone either by choice or just by circumstance, and then them trying to figure themselves out while living together. And no one has it all together. No one has it's like no one has the right answers, but they're stumbling through it as a and trying to figure themselves out. And that's kind of what I really like about it. It makes it really special and unique that way. Um, it's like I said, I am most definitely going to finish this up too. I was kind of waiting. Originally, I waited for it because I saw the first episode. I'm like, okay, I really want to watch this, but my time is very, limited, and it's really hard for me to sit down and just dedicate, going through subs, because generally speaking, when I'm doing a lot of anime, it'll be a second screen experience unless if it's something that I'm really into. But at the same time, usually if it's at the end of the night, right, before bed, I kind of want to be able to just enjoy and watch and not have to focus so much. I'm dead tired, and I'm like, okay, chances are I'm going to be missing something. So that's why it's hard to find that an uninterrupted time to give it my undivided attention. I think that's what this is. It's worth. It's worth giving your undivided attention.
I also think that this one might benefit from um, yeah, binging or semi binging. At least it's in an anime episode like 25 minutes, so it's not that much of a thing. But I feel like I get a much better rhythm out of this show by watching like 3 episodes in a row because it is a bit slower, and if you kind of jump from whatever else you're watching, you're jumping from like Sentence to Be a Hero to this thing. It's going to feel like you're watching paint dry, more or less. And the fact of the matter is, it's like just like a different thing. So that's sort of part of the benefit of waiting this long. And I'm kind of glad I did, but I also plan to go ahead and go through the rest of it. Then I think some of these are just sometimes uh, like sometimes really good anime just benefit from being able to watch several in a row.
Yeah. All right. Uh, then the next one we're gonna talk a little more in depth about is the latest season of Frieren. So I remember when we first talked about this season, you were a little disappointed on the pacing of it and just how it was being presented. And I'm kind of curious now that you've gone through most of the season. Uh, how are you feeling now? Like, has your opinion changed? How are you feeling about this?
So the magic nullification crystals have not made another appearance since the beginning, so kind of feel more okay with that. I imagine they're probably going to come back later on in the show and be a big part of it or whatever. So that was kind of the main thing that I sort of had an issue with. I think the show is like after I kind of got through some more episodes, I did feel like it had more or less returned to form for what it kind of was a lot in season one. It has turned into more of a standard anime. It has turned more into like they're just kind of like going and like going to the next town and doing the next thing. There's not a lot of really trying to get to um, the point of the show. And I think that is sort of par for the course for Frieren. I think that's kind of the point that they're trying to make with the show is sort of the slow kind of going with like the slow pace of life in general. So it's not necessarily um, that there's nothing like wrong with it. It's just maybe kind of settling into what it is not as exciting as what I thought it could be. And so the long and short of that is, I don't think it's a bad show. I just think I'm kind of maybe more disillusioned with what the show sort of always was or was going to be, and that's just kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, so the way I look at it is it does, because like I said, this season goes back to how last season was in the beginning. And what I actually liked about it, because I'm usually not the biggest fan of procedurals, and that's exactly what this is.
A
It has an
procedural?
overall yeah, yeah,
Okay.
procedural. I'm not a big fan of a lot of them because I want a story that I can follow. I want there to be a reason for me to watch the next episode, not just, another case, another incident, but this one is pretty much that, but it's done in a pacing and in a theme that I kinda like, because last season when they did uh first class mage test,
Mhm.
while visually it was fun and the story building was unique, I also felt like it brought everything to a sudden stop. I'm like, I didn't wanna watch multiple episodes on one, minor case, as it were, like them trying to pass one test. I'm like, if they truncated that, if they sped it up a little bit, I think that would've been more my speed, but because we spent quite a few episodes, um, trying to do the battle royale dome challenge,
Yeah.
to try to do the crypt, fight, stuff like that, it's like, I felt like it really dragged on a little too long, and I did like the concept of Frierin's melancholy, slow tone. In fact, I think this is actually goes more towards the first couple episodes of the first season, opposed to, like, the middle episodes, like, when they're picking up Stark and stuff like that, because I feel like they're really kind of leaning into a lot of the memories or vibes that you're getting. Um, in this season, Frieren, she gets imprisoned, as it were, because she has an old debt she has to pay off, which doesn't it's not even a thing to worry about. They handle it such a quick means. She runs into an old friend that has been trying to dig up a ruin to try to find this magical liquor, and it's just like that episode specifically reminds me of, was that the movie Fanboys?
Mhm.
About a bunch of kids, going to see trying to see episode 1, and they're trying to break into they're driving across country to break into, Lucas's ranch, to try to get the pre-screening of episode 1 because one of their friends is dying of cancer.
Okay.
Uh and it's just like it was a great movie. It was a little I think it was originally like an indie short, and like but then they got a full-fledged release, and they redid extra shooting and, like, footage and everything like that. Uh, but that episode specifically reminded me of that, because one of the questions that brought comes up at the end of Fanboys was, like, their friend gets the private meeting to see, spoilers for that old movie, but they gets to see the movie, and the rest of them are just like, "You guys gotta wait." And then, uh, one of the guys just thinks about it and asks around a campfire, goes, "Hey, what if it's bad?" You know? Like,
Oh,
and
well.
then but the rest of them are like, it's kinda like the journey for them, it's like the journey that they did along the way,
Mhm.
and so that, like I said, I feel like that episode, in particular of Frieren, um, with the friend dwarf trying to dig up, this ancient liquor, um,
Mhm.
really did hit the nose on the head on that kind of vibe, and you know, the willingness to share your experience with people, good and bad. It's the fact that you're sharing it with someone. So yeah, that's kind of, like I said, I feel like this hits the hallmark of that, and also just, kind of people questioning themselves, looking into them, like who they are, what kind of person they are, how they perceive themselves. Because afterwards, you find a mage who does not see themselves in a kind light, and then Stark and other people, but like reiterate, like, no, no, they think of that person as a good person, but they don't see themselves as that. And while the action is still good, it's never front and center as the main focal point, much as it was at the end of the last season. Because last season, once they had the whole school test, I'm like, we need to go off on a flashy bang,
Yeah.
and show a bunch of magic from a bunch of people. While it's really cool world building and stuff like that, but it's like, yeah, this I find Frieren to be a somber affair. I think people are justified by liking it. I think the fervor in which the fandom rallies is a little much. I think it's a very good, very solid series. I But a lot of people just spout it as if this was like the best thing that's ever happened to anime, and I just don't see that.
Yeah, I think that the reason for that is because it's subdued. Like the characters are subdued and the art and stuff is good. Like the world building is good. Like all the things that you need to be good are good. But then the characters are unlike other anime characters in a lot of ways in that they're not screeching at the top of their lungs and like bouncing off the walls and doing stupid, asinine stuff. So you're able to get a lot more of a wider audience to agree, okay, this is good, and since so you have a lot more of your you have a lot more hardcore fans that way as well. Yeah, it's uh it's doing what it needs to do. I would like them to I would like them to get where they're trying to go a little bit faster. Um, but I think that the show does a good job of making it feel like an epic quest because it takes so long for them to do things. Whereas a lot of other shows, they don't ever really tell how long it's been, or they might say like offhandedly, that it's been this long or whatever. But it doesn't really feel that way because you're just like watching it episode to episode. Whereas this show shows them coming to a town and kind of getting, waylaid or having to deal with something for several days or whatever. But then maybe they can't, like in one of the episodes, this season, they are trying to cross a lake, but it's like during winter, and they basically say, okay, we're gonna have to just hang out here for literally like months, and then it shows them kind of being laid up and kind of getting cabin fever and stuff for all the time they have to be there until spring comes or the weather clears and they're able to go on. And that kind of just adds to like, okay, this is how vast this land is. This is how epic this journey is, and this is how harsh the conditions and stuff are. And so it's a way of kind of in a subliminal way, in a like under the radar kind of way, shows you what you're dealing with, and I like it for that. It's pretty good overall, but yeah. So yeah, it's a good show. I'm gonna keep watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, they do give you at least a bit of an understanding of time passing by telling you the year count, or how many, like, but if you don't remember what the last episode was when they last flashed that, or when they flashed it earlier in the same episode, because they'll pull it up again. And I'm like, I don't remember. I just know a year has passed since maybe last episode, or at least it's the new year. I'm like, it's kind of uh, hard to remember. And so I feel like I need to write notes as I'm following this along. I actually feel like give me the dummy sheet and just be like day 400 since start of journey, or like been traveling for like 6 years now, guys, because by the time they're done and they make it to the end game, I'm like, okay, well now they're gonna have to return back if they survive. And so if they return back, it's gonna be like, yeah, they'll be old people, and then of course, Fearon is just gonna be the same. So then I think it's gonna, like, I almost am leaning towards, like, it's gonna have a dark ending, you know?
Mm.
Like, she's gonna move on from them and then move with the new party, the next generation, the 3rd generation, as it were. Um, but as she learns more of what it's like to be human and emotions and stuff like that, it's, kind of what I feel like would be an appropriate inevitability that people won't be happy with.
Yeah.
Um, alright. Yeah. Well, all right. So Frieren, current season, I'm liking it a lot. It's pretty solid and it does deserve praise. Um, just may not be the speed everyone else wants, but also maybe just the right thing you're looking for. Now, let's see the next one. Uh, in the Clear Moonlit Dusk. This one was a unique one for the fact that you have it's a love story about a girl who has who knows nothing about love and who is idolized as a princely, strong character. So all the other girls around her see her as a very princely man, and a lot of the admirers she gets from guys look at her, but as if she's very beautiful, but also almost intimidated by her. And she runs into an upperclassman who is also known to be a very good-looking princely character, but he's more known as not so much being strong like that, but being good-looking and rich. So it is about them interacting with each other and trying to figure out for themselves how relationships go. Yeah, uh, what have kind of what are your some thoughts on this one? Because I'm kind of curious to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I do like this show quite a bit. There's certain points at which it has kind of irked me, but then kind of uh, understood more of what they were trying to do and enjoyed it all the more for that. Um, this show, it's it's so it presents kind of complicated characters, but it doesn't quite seem like that at the beginning. The beginning, you've kind of got your Cinderella type of girl, who hasn't really ever had a lot of male attention, and she seems to have a lot of walls and boundaries and things like that. And then on the other side, you have a guy that has had it did has kind of had on the face a lot of freedom and ability to do kind of like whatever he wants, and who has had a lot of female attention, but has never really had the chance, seemingly, to pursue a girl, you know, um, of his
He's
own.
he's a playboy, but he's never had a meaningful relationship. It's all been very superficial, it seems.
Yeah, but it also seems like he's not really ever the one to initiate things. It's like there's always girls that come up to him and talk to him, and they're like, "Oh, I really like you," and he's like, "Well, okay, I guess we can date or whatever." And so whenever he runs into her, he likes her, and she's sort of like kind of taken aback by it. And they and and so he sort of so he kind of so they kind of both get what they've been missing. Like he gets to pursue somebody, and she gets to be pursued, but there's also kind of like as you get into some of the middle later episodes, that sort of becomes more complicated because he's used to going very fast and loose, more or less, and she's like not used to any of this at all. So she has a lot of walls that have to be broken down. And at first, I was kind of like the way they kind of make him look is sort of like, for lack of a better term, kind of creepy. He's like, oh, we're just gonna like do this, and I'm just gonna like assume that we're all, that we're full on boyfriend and girlfriend. Um, and then, but then as it kind of goes along, they show her being sort of ridiculous in the kind of rules and regulations and laws that she's trying to put up on their relationship and the secrets that she's trying to keep from everybody else about them being together and stuff like that. And so after I kind of saw
But
that,
then instantly reneges on things, being like, "Okay, maybe not, or maybe that is silly," but, but certain rules she does have put in place, and it's just they are very, they're very juxtaposed to each other, like, because of that, and but the way they explain things, later on, I agree, is one of the highlights of it because they talk about how he's just like, well, this is how I've only known relationships to be. Like, as far as you proceed with physical closeness, not, and she's just like, no, this is way too much, way too fast. But she also states that it's not like she doesn't want that, but at the same time, there has to be a middle ground or him figuring out that he's jealous. Like it takes him a while to realize he actually likes her. He just finds her fascinating. It's just like because he's like, what is this thing? Like in that I feel within my chest, kind of like it's like a foreign object. He's like completely abstract, and his friends are like, yeah, you like her, and he's like, what? Like you can see the gears turning in his head, and it's just like, but then he starts getting, you know, uh, acting bratty, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of obnoxious, but then he admits to his flaws of being jealous and not understanding himself, and you're like, okay, you understand why he's acting like that because it almost seems almost juvenile for someone who you are led to believe it's like misled, but that he has experience, that he understands more, but he really doesn't. And so he's trying to figure himself out. Though I do laugh every time because he makes her do a lot of the heavy lifting as far as admitting uh like when the confession happens, he's just like she tells him, and he's like he might as well have just been like, I know. It's just like
The Han Solo.
and then and then at one or more times, he's just like he just, like, opens his arms up, and she's like, yeah, pretty much like, "Yeah, you hug me. You come to me." Like, and it's just like I found it funny because 'cause I'm like, "You are a Chad, I guess."
Yeah,
It's
I
just
mean, like they make him look that way more toward the beginning, but when she is writing out her plans for how the relationship will go and who will know and who won't know, it's like, bitch, you're out of your mind. Why are we keeping this a secret? Why am I walking, like, what are these rules about walking 2 meters behind you on the way
and
home? And
not being able to, be seen next to each other till 3 miles out or something like that, you
two
know?
kilometers. They
Yeah.
have to be 2 kilometers away from school and all this stuff. And yeah, so they do a good job though of kind of showing it going back and forth. I think it's a little bit more from her perspective overall, but they do a good job of making it kind of go back and forth as to like who's in the right, who's in the wrong. Not that it's all about that, but just sort of like, okay. And so they're kind of bouncing around back and forth, but they are each time ultimately getting closer together, kind of like with each episode. Yeah, and it's not an overly serious, anime, but it doesn't really. It's not really going for jokes. It might be kind of going for sort of funny-ish situations sometimes, but it's still fairly um, serious and kind of sticking with the rom part of rom com, more so. But I like the way it's animated. Obviously, there's not a lot of heavy action or anything like that, but they do a good job with the characters most of the time, and keeping them, without looking overly too beautiful and stuff. And I like his character. I like the way I like his silhouette, and the way that he's designed is really cool. But I really like the way that she's designed. It's pretty hard. Um, Maybe it's not all that hard. You just don't really see it that much where they really go ham on making a short-haired female character like look pretty. And they do a good job of kind of towing that line of like she's definitely pretty, but you can also definitely see why people call her a prince because she is very tall and like elegant and has like a short haircut and is like very I mean, kind of going into the personality aspect, but she is very strict in the way that she like does everything. So yeah, it's a good show overall. I wasn't sure how much I'd like it. I thought it would be all right from just at least from like the trailers and stuff and from the first episode, but it's shown through and still doing pretty well.
Alright, let me introduce you to a character called, Haruka Tenno, and she's best known as being Sailor Uranus from the Sailor Moon franchise.
Okay.
Uh, most definitely this archetype. So it's been around for a bit. It's just the anime you watch just hadn't ever really had that. There's a lot of especially when you do rom-coms and harem type shows that you generally do have it's common to see a character of this type. Um, the princely character, not as popular as like a tsundere or something like that, or like a twin-tailed character or something. But it is common. The But as far as the storyline and I like the fact that it is supposed to be more of a mature topic. It's once again just like Journal with Witch, supposed to be like a discovering oneself, trying to understand yourself. And I think that's uh kind of the key takeaway of this because yeah, she is ridiculous when it comes to writing all these rules and supposed to be because she is has zero experience and she looks at it as like I'm protecting myself from this predator of a playboy guy, you know, and she, she doesn't understand how to process her feelings, and then watching him try to understand how to process his feelings. They do a good job also about not adding a lot of extra, at least maybe in the manga, or if I'm assuming this is based off of manga, but maybe it goes based off of there's more side character drama. I was afraid that they were gonna induce, some of that stuff because, him being so well known by other girls, I was expecting and they kinda bring it up how when she's with him or something, she's afraid that other girls are gonna talk and talk trash and stuff like that, so that she brought up a very good point, um, quickly forgotten in the storyline, and then she has a coworker who quickly, as a viewer, you kind of like, okay, there's going to be something that's going to happen, right? And very little actually does, or at least to this point. And who knows? Maybe it might come back around later. But I always get annoyed when they throw in uh, annoying obstacles just for the sake of it. Like if it's done tactfully, that's great. But it's usually like we just got to throw in third person to try to break it up and cause unnecessary, drama. But the coworker, seemingly all right guy, and then it's her trying to the main girl, Yaoi trying to reinvent herself, or at least adjust, more appropriately. Like she decides to go shopping. She finds a pair of earrings that matches the main guy, and she wants to, you know, try to match a little bit. And that's a cute little effort on her part, like, especially since they're earrings and she doesn't have pierced ears, so she gets these little, clip-ons. Um, she tries to wear a dress for their aquarium date, and my god, is it a terrible dress. That is a frumpy man, a toga has more style to it. It just was this giant
I saw what they were going
jumper of
for with that, and yeah, it's like the top part's kind of cool, and then it does just kind of get sort of frumpy from that point. Yeah.
yeah, like, she just wore, like, a proper full-length skirt or something if she wanted, but it was just the bottom half of that white, and it's all white, it's all flat, it's all boring, it's just like, my wife was also immediately, like, upset about it, like, "Why? This is it completely just detaches you from the moment. You're like, "This is a really cute moment, but my god, I can't look at you without thinking that's a terrible outfit." Um, yeah, I understand though. The top half from shoulders up, you're like, "Okay, it has a little collarbone, it has an actual rigid collar, it has, like, it has a little something," but then you pan back and you're like, "Oh, ouch." What were you thinking, guys? But anyways, that terrible fashion sense aside, I'm like, and she had 2 friends who helped her. I'm like, "Guys, you are the wingman. You were supposed to
So
help set her straight."
I mean, I kind of wonder if that was sort of done intentionally as like the author or whatever the mangaka uh kind of showing this as like a bit of a coming of age because she is like an underclassman and he is like a couple of years older. I think they've mentioned that a couple times.
So she's a first year, he's a second year.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's just like just 1 year different, but she is not really used to this stuff, and so it's probably not intentional. But it could be intentional that it is like a step in the right direction, but poorly executed on her part to go and pick out this dress that looks nice, or you would think it looks nice if you don't really know how to do this kind of thing. And so it's still like a bit of a misstep. I don't know. Like I
But
could,
he likes it. He digs it, though. He digs it to the point where, like, the moment the friends are about to see them in the living room, he snatches her away, be like, "You dress this way for me," and so he just bolts her with her, and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's I understand," but at the same time, it's just like, oh, she has friends. She has 2 friends that were helping her. They failed her as friends. That's what I'm saying is they failed her as far as, the 3 people together could have come up with a simple yet effective outfit. But anyways, no, that was just like it was a weird misstep on the scale of this. I'm like, it was funny because I'm watching this and I was like, I lean over and I'm like, tell my wife, I'm like, yeah, guess what? Like in a different anime, if she wasn't, you can see her being the bully character if she wasn't beautiful like she is now, because, her father runs a curry shop,
Mhm.
and because she's just perfect in every way, and she's the main character in plot armor, everyone likes her. But if it was a different anime, and if it was just, like, from a guy's point of view or from if it's, not a popular girl's point of view, they would be bullied for smelling of curry, like,
Oh
all
yeah,
the time.
yeah.
It's just like I could see that play out in a much different
I,
type
d-
of anime.
I,
Same
d-
s
I do feel like Japanese people have a very soft spot in their cultural heart for curry. Like there's a lot of curry places all over the place, and every single time I've ever heard a Japanese person talk about curry, they like get that like wistful like look in their eye, and they like look off in the distance. They're like, ah, curry, that sounds amazing. And Japanese curry is awesome. Like I have to admit it is great. It does hit the spot pretty much all the time. But yeah, so maybe she is a kind of royalty just because she works at a curry shop.
Yeah, it's anyways, but overall, it was a really pleasant surprise. I thought it's been really well done and well handled. Uh, they could, still fumble the ending. Haven't finished it yet, but
Yeah,
I was, like I said, I like the fact that they seem like more normal people, and once again, you're led to think one thing, it kind of misdirects you a couple times, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I get it. I get what they're doing," and they corrected themselves, or, "That was my bad, I jumped the gun on that one. I automatically assumed this." And so that was kind of fun, and I was like, "Oh, wait," like, at one point, he's jealous, and I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be a stupid long drawn out drama thing," and like, "Oh, no, it wasn't. It was pretty quickly addressed, relatively speaking," and but he also realizes he's jealous, and then he admits to it or like owns up, and then she realized. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm glad for that. It's just like, but also her realizing that she has like him saying her flaws out loud that she never knew she had, and then her understand like learning to understand them. Um, because she's never been told she's cute or good looking, like, or at least in a romantic sense. She's always been princely, uh, and then also find her discovering she has low self-esteem, because he had mentioned it before. Um,
yeah. Because she didn't
you
really
know,
realize that at first. She was like, I do kind of have low self esteem, and so yeah, it's a journey of self discovery for everybody involved.
yep. All right. So yeah, highly recommend if you get a chance, give this one a watch. And probably this last one is like my Yeah, the one that snuck under the radar, I knew right away in episode 1 that this was gonna be, a banger of a series, and it hasn't disappointed me yet. Uh, you and I are polar opposites. Um, and like I said, episode 1 being a normal episode, not there's a couple anime this season that had, like, longer episodes, but this one was just a normal, 25-minute episode or whatever, but does more in that one episode than most rom-coms do in the entirety of the season or series. And this one is about a gal, a very outgoing, Genki or high energy girl who falls in love with or who is head over heels for a quiet, um, self-confident boy who just kind of minds him to himself. He doesn't speak. He just like and he just shoots straight. But she just loves that part about him. And spoiler for episode 1, she confesses at the and, like, just straight like, yeah, you don't get confessions in this kind of stuff, it's usually a long, drawn out will they, won't they, but episode 1 fully commits. I'm like, "Wow, alright, awesome," and this series has been just a gem. It's animated very well. Um, this is, they have a fun cast of characters. The side characters kind of all over the place. It's very much a cutesy, more heartwarming series. None of it's taken too seriously. They do have serious talks, but it's very hard to take it like heavy. It's not heavy at all, but because when they are having serious talks, they're still having absolutely happy smiles, and so it's a very lighthearted, feel good, laughable time. That's the way I look at this.
Yeah, yeah. I started watching this at your behest, and I was like, okay, this is pretty all right. But it's actually gotten a lot better over time. Even I think that the animation quality is really good. They do a really good job with all the stills and stuff like that. There's a lot of bright colors. This is a very happy. This is like whereas like in the Clear Moonlit Dusk is it's not dour or anything. It is a little bit on the sort of serious side, so it's just the palette is just a little bit darker a lot of the time. But you and I polar opposites is very much the calm side of rom com, um, and so there's a lot of kind of happiness to it. Something that really stands out for this anime is the humor is pretty great. I haven't watched that much in subs, so I couldn't really tell you how much really work they're doing on that side of it. But in terms of the dub, they have their A team on this. The main girl says all kinds of hilarious things. The actress who is playing her, I don't know who that is, but whoever it is really bringing their A game, really trying their best because she is very dynamic. She's going all over the place and not in an annoying way, which is a very hard needle to thread. But she's making like all kinds of like funny sounds and funny jokes and stuff like that. There's a lot of effort that's put into it, in the dub at least, with the vocabulary of these kids being that they borrow a lot of Gen Z humor, Gen Z vocabulary and things like that to kind of give you a better feel for uh, the kind of place that these kids are in life, and it really shines through. Um, so it was kind of curious to me that they didn't really drag on the will they won't they thing, that they kind of get that over with in the first episode. And I think that you were telling me when you first started to watch this that you think it's kind of one thing, and that you're just gonna kind of get this anime where you have a long drawn out, them getting together thing. But by the end of the first episode, they're like, nope, they're already together, kind of more or less. And so you realize that the show is not about that. It's about sort of the coming of age aspects in a lot of ways, like in the Clear Moonlit Dusk, about the coming of age aspects of being with somebody for like the first time or whatever. But what they do is they do have a little bit of will they won't they with a lot of the side characters in the show. And that's something that I also have to praise about the show is there's a significant amount of time spent on the main two characters, but they do a really excellent job of weaving in the side characters just enough to, and there's not like just two or three, there's like four or six side characters that have significant parts, and you get to really feel their personality, understand who they are. And yeah, it's not easy to do that, and it's just very efficient in the way they're doing it, and I have to give them props for that.
Yeah, the so it's funny because right from the opening, sequence, the opening tamer theme, they have a lot of fun with the visual design and kind of like the whole all these visual tricks, and they're just playing with it. The the concept, the story, where they like I said, they still have serious discussions, they still have insecurities, they still have to second guess themselves, but they even play with you on that because at one point, uh, the main character Yusuke, he ends up thinking that he's gotten um Suzuki jealous, and she's like upset with him, or he's being through a conversation with a friend. He's like made it almost feel like he's kind of stringing her along or like messing with her, and he's like, I need to confront this. I need to bring this out so we're out in the open. We're on the same page. And he's about to do so, but then turns out she wasn't upset with him. She was looking past him at a different friend who she's like, "Oh, dang. They have sparks. They're totally a thing." And then she does her initiation on that, and then he just kinda looks for a moment. He's like, kinda like, "Oh, okay, that's what's going on." I just, like, dodged a bullet. Like, I almost made myself look like a fool, but, like, he was misreading the entire vibes,
Yeah.
and it's and then you as a viewer, like, kind of are getting we're on board with his mindset. Um the characters are really fun, the side characters. You have, uh, was it that character, the couple that in question I was just mentioning, I'm trying to remember that guy's name now because he was crud,
I'll look up the
because there's
characters
just
here.
so many characters. Yeah, because he's the blonde. He's, Kentaro. Kentaro was his name. Uh, and he's a goofy kid, not meant to be taken seriously, but you kind of love him because he's enduring and he's earnest, and you're like, "Alright, awesome." He's going for the quiet girl, but he likes his type is someone who laughs at his jokes. And so when someone laughs at his jokes, he's immediately, fascinated by them. So you're kinda rooting for him. There's the I think it was, Shuji was the, convenience store, employee, and he's kinda self-deprecating, and he's kinda, like, edgy. He's a little edgelord. He's just like, he's a realist, and he's just like, Everyone's out looking for themselves, and no one cares really what you think and blah, blah," and he's like, "Holy crap, when did the main character, Tani, like, when did he incorporate into our group so well? Like, why did we just accept him?" I'm like, "Is this like, am I on the outside?" Like, it was
Yeah.
just, uh, his oh, man, just everyone has their own role to play. They all show a different side of themselves. Shino, um, she has she has a history of falling for the wrong kinda guy, um, and it's like her personality is kind of a little twisted that way, but it's also really fun to listen. Everyone seems to get along really well. Uh, it kinda reminds me of, My Dress Up Darling in a lot of ways where it's
Mhm.
yeah, because well, it helps that you're having, the gals be, the main female leads, though in My Dress Up Darling, it's kinda looked at as for more from uh, the the male's, point of view, because Gojo, My Dress Up Darling, he's, uh he has a lot of self-esteem issues.
Right.
He sees himself on the outside. He doesn't understand, and that series also is about acceptance and about, overcoming, your fears and accepting who you are, and not to necessarily judge others right off the bat because he perceives things a certain way, and then he realizes he's wrong. But it's, these both of these, anime are kind of like the most, uh idolized happy-go-lucky situation where everyone gets along and everyone happens to accept each other, which is, you know what? It's fine. It's fiction. It's okay. All the classmates can accept each other, no problem. Though in the case of you and I are polar opposites, Suzuki, she's kind of like the forefront. She's more the main character. It's kind of from her perspective more. and uh, it's just like it's great to see her geek out or freak out over certain things. It's just the small little interactions. Um,
Yeah.
absolutely, just it's a
Oh,
gem to watch.
yeah,
They both.
there's like one part where she's like, "Yeah, Tatani is like my first boyfriend," and then I think it's Yamada or is it Tyra? I think it's Yamada who's like, "What about Rihi?" And she's like, that doesn't count or whatever." And then you're like, "Wait a second, what's going on here?" And then you have the whole like Rihi episode sort of a thing, and it's sort of it sort of bubbles up like it's gonna be a big thing, but then it sort of gets resolved. So it's um it's very sweet. It's a good show overall, and I think it's pretty easily um, the best show this season. At least of the ones that I've seen, it's probably maybe not the highest highs, though I think it probably does have the highest highs, but definitely is fewest faults of any show that I've seen this season so far.
Yeah, it's made me laugh out loud a couple times, genuinely, and it kind of makes you for those who have experience in awkward relationships, if you remember your cringe past, it kind of makes you feel that secondhand embarrassment,
Yes.
or you can empathize really well, and it's just like, uh, yeah, for sure, it's just absolutely a great time. Her her father in that one, like,
Mhm.
when, it's like she brings Tani over, meets the mom, and then, like, dad shouldn't be here, and then dad shows up.
Yeah,
Um,
with the
it's like, it was hilarious
golf, like with the overshirt with the Hawaiian shirt or the golf shirt or whatever. Yeah, that was weird.
because he hears the friends are, and so he's trying to be cool dad in front
Yeah,
of the
cool
friends,
dad.
and they
Yeah.
realize the friend is a boy, and he's like, "What?" You
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
the mom. I was like, why is the mom keeping this secret from the dad? But the dad's
'Cause
cool
they're
with
both
it.
embarrassed about the dad. The dad's
Okay.
embarrassing to be around.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah, once again, I found it to be, uh, just a really good stand-up show. It has a lot of, like I said, it still addresses key points, and like I said, you mentioned the whole, previous, boyfriend issue episode, and as you're watching it, you're like, "Oh, okay, so it's they were more, like, awkwardly put into the relationship, and they both were awkwardly like, 'You know what? This ain't gonna work.'" You know?
Yeah.
Um, but it put a strain on their actual friendship, after the fact, it's like, "Oh, this is weird to hang out now," but then they finally resolve that, they're like, "Yeah, not a big deal." Um, it's just it's such a bubbly, happy-go-lucky series, and I actually had a friend watch both My Dress Up Darling and, You and I Are Polar Opposites, like, simultaneously this last season 'cause, they recently started a Plex server at home, and I was just like, "Okay, put these on, you're gonna wanna watch this." And they've powered through season 1 of My Dress Up Darling super fast, and they're in the season 2, and then they're watching, of course, You and I Are Polar Opposites as it's airing. And they're like, "Yeah, they're both really, really good. They're both different, but they have a lot of overlapping similarities." Though granted, My Dress Up Darling is meant to be more, has more it's more sexy, it's more adult, like, fan service, but at the same time, it still has a lot of these wholesome, like, whole notes, and it brings up realistic questions and problems. There's a hilarious episode where Gojo is stuck at Marin's place because the trains are out and there's a storm. Uh, and he is now in an awkward position because he most definitely, definitely feels like he shouldn't be at a girl's house. At that point, Marin, like, she's already understood her feelings and is fully, madly in love with Gojo, and sees Gojo buying energy drinks because he's like, "I'll just stay up all night. So technically, I'm not sleeping over. I'm just hanging out." And there's a visual novel game that I gotta play in order to get the story for making the costume. So I'm just gonna stay up all night and play. And then she sees him buy the energy drinks, but she looks past him at the adult energy drinks that they sell in Japan. It's just like,
Oh, okay.
which is the gas station equivalent of, the American gas station, like, adult pills,
Yeah,
and
Stins.
so she's looking at all that stamina, like, drinks, and she's like, "Oh my god, what?" And he's just like, "I'm gonna be up all night." And then she's like, she interprets that incorrectly completely, and then she passes out, eventually passes out, then she wakes up the next morning like, "Oh, nothing happened. Wait, nothing happened." You know? Um,
Yeah.
it's just like, like I said, I really absolutely love, My Dress Up Darling, and but at the same time, it's just like taken to, a more cutesy version, and, like, toning it down just a little bit, but it's, you and I are polar opposites, uh, and just having these guys, do their thing, and it's one of those the ending credits, every time I watch the ending credits, I seem to unlock a new understanding of, "Oh, there's the character that they introduced," because like, one of the more recent or one of the latest episodes, um, there's a character who is walking with, um, I think it's, Shino, and it's just like but you finally get to see her for the first time, like, in that episode because she's in a different class trying to get the kids all organized together, and no one for the culture fest or something like that, and they're like, no one wants to oh, no, school trip, it was the school trip, and no one wants to do anything. Uh, so she's just like, "Okay, guys, how about this?" No one says anything. "Okay, how about this?" And she's like, "Grow a backbone and just make a decision," and she's all freaking out, and then at the end of the episode, there's just, they show everyone doing their own thing, but she's walking with, Shino. I'm like, "Oh, that's who that is." She's been there the entire time, but we just had no clue who she was. Um, yeah, them, uh also, with, Tani, on the school trip, him kind of having his own self-discovery, self-revelation. He talks about, because she meant like, Suzuki mentions the old him probably would have really hated the situation about being on a school trip, mingling with other kids. He's like, "Well, I probably wouldn't have cared, but I really wouldn't have looked forward to it," and she asked the question, "Do you like the new you more than the old you?" And he's just like, "It's not really that. It's I was comfortable with the old me. The new me is uncertain, and there's a lot of, like, it brings up a lot more questions." But then he ends up realizing it's like, "But I'm having a good time, and I'm enjoying the discovery, and it's all because of being with her." And it's just like you're visually seeing his, and him audibly saying his growth. And I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, that's great. That is a great way to handle that." So,
Yeah.
I think, honestly, like, this is probably the best of the season.
Mhm.
Uh, but for me personally, I recommend it to anyone I can. Uh the only reason why you wouldn't is if you feel like rom-coms just aren't your thing and you absolutely hate it, but I still say this should be given a shot, even if you're not a rom-com fan. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Also, like I said, I really do like the ending, of this, or the opening and ending, just the visual aesthetic to it. The ending to it also kinda reminds me of, um oh goodness, dang it, I can't remember. There was another rom-com from back in the day, not that long ago. It was shoot, it's not Hana Kimi, but it was I'm gonna kick myself later. I can't remember. It was another one where it's a boy and girl, opposites kind of concept, but it's just like the visual aesthetic of this ending reminds me of that one. The we previously mentioned in the Clear Moonlit Dusk, the opening and ending both being by Unison Square Garden, was unique.
Mhm.
Um, I can't think of them without thinking of Kekai Sensen, which was Blood Blockade Battlefront. Um, that's they did a really solid opening for them, but it's just like, okay. And then I was gonna ask you, what are your feelings on the ending theme song to or the ending sequence to Frieren, for this season?
I don't even remember what it is. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I remember now. I think that I don't love it. Uh, yeah, I think that I don't love it. I can't. I skip it usually, and I haven't really heard a lot of. I think I think the "You and I Are Polar Opposites" ending theme, and maybe the Hana Kimi ending theme, for some reason, stick out of my mind as being some of the better ones. But besides that, I haven't really paid attention to a lot of the themes and how good or bad that they are. Um, yeah.
So the as far as the Frieren ending, A, I'm not a big fan of the song. B, I absolutely hate the actual art aesthetic behind it. Everyone likes to talk about how great it is, um, and how it's like, yeah, it's hand drawn. It's like AI can't do this. I'm like, it kind of looks like AI slop to me. It looks like a random generated mush because and it's like I just really dislike the ending art style to it. I'm like, I don't know why, but I just something about it just rubs
Well,
me the wrong way.
well, on the next episode,
Uh,
I'll watch it more carefully. I'll watch it all the way through again and kind of pay attention to it. But yeah, I don't really love the song. I know that the way that it starts is sort of with the words are kind of weird, and it hasn't really done anything for me. But yeah.
Yeah, they try to sing in English, and the one I was trying to the anime that I was trying to think of the ending that is reminiscent of You and I Are Polar Opposites is Horimiya,
Okay.
which I also really liked. It's a really solid, rom-com as well. Um, yeah, I've leaned more into rom-coms in the last couple years, mostly because, uh, shonen, like, just the overall action series genre, like, if you're not looking super great. Usually the stories aren't like super stellar, and so I have a hard time really catching my eye. Like JJK Jujutsu Kaisen was like that. The initial jump was like got my attention was the art style is great for this first episode. Like it's out of this world, and the story was okay. It was fun. It was entertaining. It wasn't like groundbreaking, but like I'm interested in the world you're developing. uh, I saw I followed the season 1, watched the movie, and then I kinda dropped off in that 2nd season, and then they finished up the series now, I believe, so I'm like, "Okay, I need to maybe go back to that and figure that out."
I
Um
think what it is with rom coms, the characters cannot be flat for it to be successful, and so you have a lot better characters, and in shonen and a lot of action anime, you have just flat as a board characters that are they're fit perfectly into their tropes, and they're just there to get hit or give the hit or whatever. So I think that's kind of the issue, because I'm seeing that too. Like a lot of these action anime can't really hold my attention, but for some reason the rom coms can, and I'm like, why is that? And I think that's the reason. It's good characters.
Alright, guys. Well, this has been an anime-focused, episode of Another Dead Pixel. If you made it this far, we appreciate it. Nick, what are some words of wisdom you have for the people out there?
Gosh, I gotta do this twice in 2 days. Make sure to always close the lid on the peanut butter completely. But if you close the lid on the honey completely, then you probably won't be able to get it open. So you have to just close it pretty much completely, or else you won't be able to get it open. Also, never put the honey in the refrigerator, because that becomes a problem later that you don't want to have to deal with.
And make sure to test for diabetes before you eat your body weight in peeps. Okay, guys. Until next time, this is ADP. Y'all take it easy.
Bye.